Hello and welcome, Academy members. All right. There was an error loading the app. Are you hearing me? Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear and see me? I'm just going to check that everything is working. It seems it does. Yeah, it seems everything is working now. All right, sorry about that. So for all of the live viewers, welcome. I want to make sure that you hear me and see me well. Fantastic. Dora is here. Fantastic. Hello, Dora. Thank you for tuning in all the way from Tunisia. So today's class is the second class of the Build the Momentum month. In the Build the Momentum month, what we are doing is we are actually consolidating all of your academy learnings and applying it in your context. So you can apply this in your work environment with your own clients, with your own users, and also engage your colleagues into this new legal design approach. Hey, fantastic. I see that Dora can see me and hear me well. I see that Sarah is live. Thank you so much for tuning in. Fantastic. So everything works perfectly. Great. All right. So also, before we get started, I want to acknowledge the replay viewers for taking the time to watch this replay video and for being committed to learning, even if you couldn't attend the live. So thank you as well, the replay viewers. Now, today, as you know, this is week 2 of the Build the Momentum month. We have some really active members in the community who have actually shared with the community what is the challenge they have picked for the Build the Momentum month, which is absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely great because then you are allowing yourself to actually move forward in a very tangible manner by sharing your challenge. It's great as well for me to best help you. And it's also great for the community to be engaged into your journey as well in order to help you have a success throughout this month's challenge. But also I want to say something for the people who have not yet shared the challenge, or maybe they have not yet picked a challenge. Maybe they feel they're a little behind in the program. It's totally perfect. You can use this academy at your own pace. You can do it at your own pace. Of course, the more engaged you are, the more committed you are to watching the classes, the more results you're gonna get, for sure. But if for some reason, you know, the time is not right, you have other priorities, well, you can come back anytime and do this challenge whenever you're ready. So you're not missing out on anything if you're not able to do the challenge now. Although, of course, I recommend you do, because that way you're moving forward faster. As you know, at the end of the month, you're going to get your case study, and I will be helping you to build the case study. But again, if for some reason this month you cannot be so committed, well, you can always come back later and take that later. And I will always be available in the portal to answer your questions and to provide more guidance as well. So I just wanted to make that clear for everybody, that you all feel comfortable to dip in and dip out inside the academy at your own convenience, and you can do this at your own pace. All right, fantastic. So this is week 2. So week 2 of the Build the Momentum month is about really understanding the user existing journey. Why? Because, well, last week, for week 1 of the Build the Momentum month, I invited you to pick a challenge. I invited you to pick a real challenge. I invited you to make it specific, meaning attainable within a month's time frame. I invited you to use a specific framework in order for you to frame your challenge. Now that you have your challenge ready, we need to understand the room for improvement. We need to understand the pain points that are now lived, felt, or just perceived by you users. So very often what we do is we pick a challenge and we ideate solutions, which is great, but we are missing one very important step, which is understanding the existing journey of your users. And it's so important because this is where you will be able to identify the biggest opportunities for you to tackle this challenge in a sustainable manner. By missing this very important step, we are at risk of generating ideas that can be great on paper, but that might not actually suit the needs of the users. So this is why today we're going to spend some time into understanding your users' existing journey. Isabella is live as well. Thank you so much for tuning in for the live, Isabella. So how are we going to do that today? First, I want to make sure, before we do that, if you have any questions on the week 1, which is about your challenge. I know many Academy members have shared the challenge, and I'm going to share them with you for inspiration for those who have not yet do so. And whether you have your challenge ready or whether you have not, before I move forward, I want to make sure that all of your questions are answered. If you do have questions related to week 1, the challenge, or maybe you have not yet picked a challenge, you are struggling choosing the challenge, or maybe you have chosen a challenge and you're not sure it's the right challenge, I want to address those questions now before I move forward. So whether you are live, it's great because you can ask directly to me and I will be able to answer now your questions. But even if you're in the replay, you can post them in the comment section below and I will answer them. So please let me know if you have questions. If you don't, also let me know with maybe an emoticon so I know you're ready to move forward. And then I can move forward with today's teachings. All right. So while I'll be waiting for you to put your questions in the chat box or in your comments or just that you're all ready to go, I will be just reading a few challenges that we have from our community members. So we actually have Joseph Schaefer, who is in Colorado, USA. Joseph is actually an entrepreneur working at the intersection of technology and social justice. He is actually building some tools, apps, and systems using technology in order to reduce the access to justice gap. I believe his company is called the Access to Justice Tech Store, I believe, A2G Tech Store. And his challenge is, how might I build a triage system that can be utilized by legal services organizations across jurisdictions in the US? So this is his challenge. As Sarah commented, it would be nice to have a bit more context in order to fully understand, the context of you and also maybe your objective, Joseph. So whenever you have a chance, please, Joseph, I invite you to put a little bit more context and maybe a little bit more vision as to what you aim to achieve. Although because Joseph and I had a conversation on the phone before he joined the Academy. So I know Joseph is on a mission to, build those tech tools in order to reduce the access to justice gap. So probably that's his mission. So this is one example for you. Then we have, and we're going to be working on that during today's class, Sarah Fox, who is, as you know, a construction lawyer in the UK. And she has got a very specific challenge. Her challenge is, how might she create a tool to explain the payment process to homeowners so they know what money needs to be paid to the builder and when, what notices and paperwork needs to be exchanged, and how that money can change due to decisions they make during the project. So you see, this challenge is different from the other one. It's more specific. So it's It's more narrowing it down to one specific feature of the contract, which is the payment process. And as we know, payment is extremely important in contracts and can be, unfortunately, sometimes confusing. So this is what Sarah is going to tackle this month, which is great. I see Isabella is writing in the comments. She is ready to go. Isabella, have you shared your challenge in the community? I don't recall seeing your challenge. So please, if you would like to share it now on the live for the benefit of the entire community, it would be absolutely fantastic. And it's going to also help me best help you. So feel free to do so now, Isabella, in the comment section. And finally, before I get started with the teaching, I see Sylvie is tuning live as well. Finally, as she says. Fantastic, Sylvie, to have you on the live. All right. So we have a few challenges, as you can see, that are ready now. You are ready to move forward into understanding your users' existing journey. And I will help you by giving you 3 strategies or tips or tools in order for you to best do that. So Isabella is saying she doesn't have a challenge ready. She's working on creating more content on legal tech in writing. All right, perfect. Well, whenever you're ready, you can go back to those videos and do the Build the Momentum month at your own pace. Fantastic. All right, so here are a few tips, all of the Academy members, just for you, in order to understand the customer existing journey. So the first tip I have for you is to start working with real users. Yes, with real users. What we do in the Academy is made for you to have an impact in the way you work and with your clients. So this is why I want you to start engaging a few of your users into this process in order to observe them and to interact with them, to gain feedback and to gain insights. So this is my first tip to you. I know it's maybe a little daunting for some of you. Some others might already be in the process of engaging their users into improving, whether it's contracts or a system. But I really want you to make sure, this is why I asked you to pick a real challenge last week. Remember, I asked you to pick a real challenge versus an abstract challenge. Why? Because then you can work with real people, real users, and get the real feedback. So once you start, how many users do you need? You don't need necessarily many users. You can start with just 1, 2, 3 users. It's already more than perfect. Remember, this is Build the Momentum month. This is just 1 month. I don't want to overwhelm you with too much work. So you can start with 1 user, 2 or 3. 3 is even better. If you want more, I invite you to be ambitious and to involve more users into this process. But even just 1, 2, or 3 is fine for the purpose of the Build the Momentum month. So how are you going to pick those users? With who are you going to be working? That is another question to ask for yourself. How are you going to pick those users? Well, the best users are the ones who are entirely committed to helping you find a solution. That means the problem that they experience is painful enough that they are ready to give you as much information as possible for you to solve this problem for them. You see, it's much efficient to work with people who actually are, like they are craving for a solution and they are ready to engage in a process with you so the problem they are experiencing can be solved. So very likely your best users, they experience this problem very often, and the fact that they're not able to solve this problem is very costly for them, whether in terms of money or emotional cost. And they are so eager to get a solution that they will do anything and everything to help you help them. All right? So this is my first tip to you today, is to go and target a few users that you can engage in this process. So whether those users are your clients, well, it's easy. You can ask them whether they are interested in giving you more feedback. If you're working with a client that has users and so what you're hoping to achieve with your solution is actually a tool that is going to be used by your client users. And I would encourage you to talk to your client and to ask him or her to identify a few users with whom you can have direct conversations. So that way you can really get started with understanding the problem they go through. All right. So I see a few comments in the section. So before I move forward with my second strategy, I would like to address those comments now. And so if you have comments, if you have questions, now is the time to share it in the comment section right below, or if you're watching in the YouTube, in the chat. All right, so I see that Isabella is saying that her mission is actually to contribute to the transformation of the legal sectors. So she's expanding her work into written content, and she's partnering with journalists and digital marketers. This is great. So you're more working on communicating on the transformation now. So maybe the challenge, you can use the challenge for yourself, you know. So you would like to transform, you would like to communicate heavily on the transformations occurring. So, you know, who is your users? Engage your users as well. Really engage your users. Identify who they are and start talking to them. Partners is great, but users is even better. I see Dora is writing too. She wants to share about her experience on the CIM month. So she asked her principal internal client, and just so you know, Dora is an in-house counsel, and her challenge is related to simplifying the litigation reporting system. So she actually asked her principal internal client, what is for him the best way to receive litigation reporting? Is making a shared file more practical for him? And he said that sending a report monthly by email seems like more clear and attractive for him. So Dara says she's discovered the best way to simplify her communication process. That's fantastic, Dara. That's absolutely fantastic. You see the power of asking our users what they need and then delivering on it. It's so simple, yet it's so powerful. And now her challenge is the content. All right, so how to simplify the content now. All right, that's perfect. So that means Dora, she had this challenge to simplify the communication reporting system. She went from simplifying the communication, breaking it down now into a monthly report, and now she wants to work on the content of the report, making it more simple, which is great because many Academy members are in this working with an objective to simplify the content too. So it's perfect because you're all going to be able to share ideas and to share your prototypes even, and to build inspiration from seeing those. Because remember, creativity comes by association. So the more we are able to associate ideas, the more we're able to create valuable innovations. So now Dora wants to work on how to use legal design to simplify the content. Excellent. Congratulations, Dora. I'm so happy for you. Excellent. So this is why for the content now, great. So before I move into the content, I told you the first tip is to continue engaging your users. Continue to engage them in the process as much as you can. Of course, don't overwhelm them. You know, be mindful of the time, be respectful of the space, but stay, stay committed towards working with them, and make yourself available for them to reach you and to provide you feedback. All right? So, first tip in order for you to succeed at this Build the Momentum month, and specifically mapping the user existing journey, is to work with real users. Second, you have to start visualizing the existing journey, meaning what are the steps, what is the timeline, what is it that they see. So in other words, I would like you to work in a very concrete manner, in a very practical manner, to map the existing journey, meaning, say, for Dora, the journey, well, now it seems she has moved forward in quite fast, which is great. But before, Dora and I had a few discussions, and I want to share them with you so you understand the process. She had different stakeholders, and she had different, there were different steps involved. And so she needed to understand the map. She need to map the existing system, so you can visually see what are the steps, how many steps are there, within how long, what is the frequency of those steps, and also what are those steps, what are the task that needs to be done. And by mapping it, you can map it with just a pen, and you can take a notebook. You take a notebook and you take a pen. I have a pen here. And all I want you to do is to map the existing journey. So it doesn't have to be complicated. So for instance, I know Sarah is working for contract. So she's working on the payment. So I want you to map the existing journey of your users in relation to payment. So how does the payment system works now? I'm not telling you to map how it's going to look tomorrow. I'm telling you, map how this payment system works now. So maybe there is one step, which is, I don't know, the contract is signed. So maybe you have contract signed. This is the first step. And then inside the contract, you have the payment clause. And so this payment clause probably is indicating, different conditions. And so you are listing them. But how does the payment work? I mean, when is the payment triggered? Is there a trigger for the payment? There must be a trigger. Maybe completion of some part of the construction work. So there must be trigger. All right, so here are the trigger. And who has to communicate on those triggers? So maybe some people are involved here, Who are those people who are actually triggering the payment? So you have to understand that, and then the trigger is done. So, okay, so we have a trigger. The payment is supposed to be done. And is actually the payment done? Is it actually done, or is it not done? Is it late? Is it on time? So you can understand. If it's late, well, then you can say, well, and then, I don't know, you can say late payment or prompt payment. And then you can have maybe different paths, whether it's late or it's prompt. So you see, although I'm not particularly good at drawing, I'm not afraid to do those drawings because they help me visualize. They help me visualize the existing journey. And this is not a drawing competition. We are here just to visualize the existing journey. I hope this is making sense for you to map the existing journey. And again, this is my tip number 2, and I have a third tip coming up real soon. But this tip is about really understanding in a very practical manner the journey of your clients. What are the steps? How many steps are involved? How the steps are being undertaken? Which tool are they using? What is the timeline? You know, it's very, very tangible. This is not emotional. I will go back to that in a moment. This is very practical things, pragmatic things, all right? So I see that Sarah is visualizing on Twitter. She is sharing now on Twitter. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing. Oh, that is much more beautiful than mine. Very nice. Very nice. So Sarah, if I can share, I don't know if you can see, but Sarah is actually doing a very nice visual of the existing journey. You see, this is great. This is exactly what we need to do. So you can see for yourself the existing journey. This is my tip number 2. My tip number 1, work with real clients, real users, real people. Select a few and engage them. Observe them, ask them questions, ask them feedback. My second tip is to map the existing journey. So that means basically you are calling those clients. You say, hey, can you please let me know how the system works for now? Just tell me your story. Tell me how it works. Tell me what is the first step? What is the second step? What is the third? How do you achieve step 1? How do you achieve step 2? How do you achieve step 3? What are the tools you use for step 1? What are the tools you use for step 2? What are the tools you use for step 3? Maybe you will see they're not the same tools. Maybe they are. Who else is involved in step 1? Who else is involved in step 2? Who else is involved in step 3? Is step 2 and 3 always delivered promptly? Or is it always delayed, or often delayed, or sometimes is it delayed? You see? So then you're starting to collect data as to your user existing journey. I see that Dora finds this very interesting to share. Yeah, actually, yes, thank you, Dora. Dora, for Sarah, if you can share your visual inside the community portal, that way all the community can interact and learn from you and provide you guidance and more support and more feedback and celebrate you. That would be great. All right, so this was my tip number 2. You understand it's very pragmatic. There's no emotions involved in this step. You just map like an architect would map, like a designer. This is a designer work. You're mapping the existing journey. Now my tip number 3, strategy number 3, is now, once you have the journey, I would like you to ask your user how they feel about the existing journey. Meaning, how do they feel about step 1? Is step 1 frustrating right from the beginning? Is it making them upset? How does it make them feel? Is it making them like no feelings? It's working. I have no feelings about this. Let's move forward to step 2. So how about step 2? How does step 2 make you feel? You know, is it frustrating? Is it upsetting? Is it great? Is it nice? Is it enjoyable? You know, usually people will tell you more when it's frustrating than when it's actually not frustrating, for sure. And by asking them how they feel about those steps, you're getting valuable insights that you can use to see where are the room for improvement. You see, if we are not asking our users how they feel about the process or the system or the contract, Well, we are missing very valuable information, because if they're telling us this is upsetting for them, it means they live anger. They live anger. What does anger mean? Anger means anger, because all emotions are just indication of something, you know, that we hope to achieve and we're not able to achieve. So anger is like, we want to achieve something and we can't, and so we have anger, you know. If we have, for instance, what's the name? Sadness. If we're sad, it means that something was supposed to happen and it didn't happen. Now it's in the past. We can't go back to the past. So we cannot fix that anymore. So we experience sadness. So maybe sometimes they're a bit sad, like the contract was not sealed, was not delivered, and they feel sadness maybe. So we don't want to go too much into the psychology, but we want just to get enough emotional feedback as to how you user experience each of the steps in the system, the existing system, in the existing contract, using the existing tools. And by getting this emotional feedback from them, you get valuable information as to what works and what doesn't work. So very likely, if everything works well, they're not going to tell you anything. They say, yeah, that works, that works, that works. But if you try to be empathic enough to ask questions and to be really a good listener, you will hear that your user actually feels something about it, either good or bad. There is no like neutral emotions. It's always either good or bad. It can be really good, it can be really bad, it can be slightly good, slightly bad, but it's never neutral. So try to see if it's more positive or if it's more negative. All right? So this is my third strategy, is once you have target new users, once you have talked to them, so they shared with you the existing journey, I want you to ask them how they feel about those different steps. And when you have this conversation with them, whether you have this conversation at the same time as to when you ask them to share you the existing system, or whether you have this conversation later in the second stage, I want you to like write as much as you can what you hear from your user with this open mind and open heart, and really listen and write a lot. If you can, you might want to ask if you can record the interview as well, so you can go back to the interview and try to really understand how they feel about it. And it's not just understanding about how they feel, but you listening to them telling you how they feel. You will gain insights as to what really needs to be improved, maybe what needs to be changed completely, or what needs to be improved, or what doesn't need to be improved. What, in other words, what works and what doesn't work. All right. Thank you, Sarah, for adding your image to the community. Thanks, Dora, for thanking. All right. So is this, do you think this is going to be something you can easily do till we meet the next week, if you would like to keep this pace? Is this something you feel comfortable doing? Targeting a few users, asking them to tell you about their existing journey, and asking them to tell you how they feel about the different steps. Is this something you're comfortable doing by the end of next week, or at your own pace whenever you have time? Do you have enough guidance from me to do that? And do you feel comfortable enough to do that? And again, the reason why I invite you to do that is, before generating solutions, before generating ideas, we need to fully understand the problems and the areas for improvement. Yeah. So Sarah says 3 steps. It's easy enough if we can find the right people, that's for sure. Finding the right people maybe to find the right people, maybe you need to ask for 10 names from your clients. And then you call them. I know it's quite some work, but it's the results that you get at the end, which is just really, really appropriate, because it's not only new, original, but relevant. This is creativity. Remember, creativity is about seeking novelty, seeking originality, and also staying relevant. And all of the teachings I share with you is made for you to achieve that, to have a new way of delivering your services, delivering your contract, delivering your content that is maybe also original, or somehow original, or very original, depending on how far you want to go, but that is also highly relevant. And the relevancy comes from understanding your client's needs. Otherwise, we are at risk of developing ideas and solutions that might be great in our imagination, but that are not relevant because they are not addressing your users' problems. They're not addressing your users' needs. All right? So, once you do that, then the times come to develop ideas, but we're not there yet. Before that, I want you to fully map the existing journey. So for instance, Joseph has, well, I'm going to take another example. I'm going to take Milen. Milen is a tax lawyer from Brazil, and her challenge is to simplify the tax, the way she delivers tax advice to her client. The taxing system is extremely complicated in Brazil, from what she told me, and from what you can see in the community portal, because she shared this story inside the community portal. She says that the tax system in Brazil is extremely complicated, and even for lawyers. So imagine for users who do not have a legal training. And so her objective is to simplify the way she delivers the information. So it's mostly about simplifying the content, maybe to some extent simplifying the process, but mostly simplifying the content. Just like Dora now wants to simplify the content of her litigation monthly report, and just like Sarah wants to simplify the content of her contract as well. So simplifying the content, we will get there next week. But in order for you to do that, you need to fully understand what makes your client crazy about new contracts, and what do they wish for. So for those of you who are working on content, I would also strongly encourage you to ask your users, how do they feel when they see the contract, this traditional contract, long and technical? And you might not want to work on the entire contract because it's a lot for 1 month, but you might want to work on one specific clause of the contract, one specific provision. Same for Dora. Dora, you might not want to work on the entire report for now. You might want to work on the most important information in the report. So what is the most valuable information in the report? Not just for you, but for your users. Ask your principal, what is the most valuable information for him that you deliver him in the report? And work on that first before working on all of the other provisions of the report, because you're going to be feeling a little bit overwhelmed by working on all of it together. So start small, and eventually you will be growing and expanding the legal design approach in the other parts of the contract or the report. You see the difference? So, in other words, for those of you working on process, I want you to map the journey, just like Sarah did with the mapping that she shared in the community portal. I want you to map the journey. And once you have mapped the journey, if you are interested, if you feel driven towards also like asking feedback, not just on the journey, but on the content, please, I invite you to do so. That way you can work on both process and content. I hope this makes sense and I'm not confusing you even more with all of those concepts. There's a lot of concepts here. I'm trying to make it as simple and as possible for you to move forward with the right direction, in the right direction. And in order for you to move in an efficient manner, I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information and too many things to do. I want you to be on the right track. So by the end of the month, you have a solution ready. You can test that solution with your users, and you will be able to compare the existing journey that we are working on this week versus the new journey you are building as you are engaging with me in those classes and in this community, applying your learnings in your context. So you will be able to see the difference between the past and the new. And you will be able to write very easily a case study that shows exactly the difference between the existing journey, which is going to be the previous, past, and the new one. It's going to be crystal clear once you follow those steps. All right. Any questions from you, live viewers, as well as from the replay viewers? Please do not be shy and please share with me your questions so I can make sure you are set for success with this step of the legal design process, which is mapping your existing journey. All right, I see Joseph is on. Fantastic. So Joseph has quite an ambitious challenge, which I absolutely love. And I know from Joseph's experience, he can so capable of doing it. But the challenge is about the triage system in the US. So I would recommend, Joseph, you to map the existing triage system. And what you can do is to pick 1, 2, or 3, depending on the time you can dedicate to that, because your challenge is quite ambitious. So maybe I would recommend you start with one triage system in one jurisdiction. And I would recommend you to map it by engaging whoever is in charge of this triage system, if they do have a triage system. Maybe they don't even have one, which is also perfect because then you can create a triage system. But it's nice to have the existing system with, even if there is no triage system, there must be some kind of steps, there must be some kind of process. So it's nice to map that now and to understand how users feel about this existing system. So then you can build a proposition for a new system that is more adequate to fulfill the user's needs, to address those pains, and to transform those frustrations into something that is easier for them and that is more efficient. You see? So I really encourage you, Joseph, to do that, because your challenge is quite ambitious. So maybe targeting just one former client of yours, or a client with whom you would like to get to work, and then you can get the work started and build this rapport, and eventually you will have a success prototype that you can then replicate in other jurisdictions. This is the way I would do it. But I'm happy to hear your feedback and comments in the community portal. All right, so any other questions from other Academy members on this step? Any concerns? Please let me know now so I can address them. And as you know, if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have struggles, very likely others might have too. So it's good to ask them. So by getting your answer, we are also helping the whole community get more answers, you see? If you don't have, I would imagine, as Joseph said, you're all set to go. Are you excited about this week? Are you... Sounds good. So Joseph is saying, sounds good. You may just pick a single topic. I'm checking Joseph's comment now. Yeah, I agree. Maybe one single legal topic and try to build a logic tree that all states can use. Yes. And so for you to pick the legal topic, I would encourage you to watch, to read the reports as to what type of issues are most recurring, what type of issues are the more numerous issues. So it's how many there are and how frequent they are in the court system. Because your tool is for the court system. It's a triage. I would imagine it's for the court system. Maybe it's not. This is what I imagined. So try to find out what are the issues that comes more often and how frequent they come, and then you will have a better argument to convince your users to engage with you. All right. Are you excited about this week? Let me know. I am really excited to see your maps. What I would encourage you to do is to actually share the map inside the Academy portal so we can give you feedback and we can support you. We can also cheer you, celebrate you. So Joseph is saying this is for legal aid organizations and general free legal help website. All right, legal aid organization, fantastic. This is great. So yeah, so ask those legal aid organizations what type of problems they have to deal with, what type of legal issue they have to deal with. All right, so I see that Sarah is saying she's excited to get the case study completed. So this is why this week is so important, because you are mapping the existing journey. As you have seen in the case studies that I have made, there is before and after. And showing the after without the before is less impactful and less relevant. So I'm very happy, Sarah, you're excited about your case study. I'm very excited too. I'm really look forward to seeing your case studies. And I'm excited to see you share them with the world. All right. All right, fantastic. So, yeah, we have Sarah's now map in the community. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Fantastic. This is really great. I'm really enjoying this. And yeah, so I think for this week, this is what I wanted to share. And for the next week, it's going to be about, let me see. I think it's going to be about the ideation part. I think so. Let me check. Next week is going to be ideation, meaning you will be generating ideas as to how you can solve the pains that you have identified in the existing user journey. And in order to focus on the areas which hold the biggest potential for improvement. Because again, there's just so many issues that we can solve. But in 1 month, let's focus on the issues that holds the biggest potential for improvement. In other words, the biggest potential for innovation, in which creativity will help you tremendously shift from some system that is not working well to something that is easy to understand, simple to use, and mostly efficient. So it's going to be new, original, and relevant. All right, so next week, I'm just checking next week. Yeah, exactly. It's about finding fresh ideas. So next week, we're going to do that. And until then, feel very comfortable sharing with us in the community portal insights as to what you find out, when you go into this research phase with your users, share any sketches that you have. Please share, like, you know, whether you're having difficulties in the process, ask for the community to help and to support you and to give you ideas. And I will be there at all times in the portal to help you as well. And whenever you have successes and achievements, please also share them in the portal so we can celebrate you. I really look forward to seeing you next week and to seeing you inside the portal to help you until we meet again for the next live class next week. If you don't have any further questions, I'll be happy to stay a little bit to talk because we still have a little bit of time to talk. So I will be happy to do so. If not, I'll just see you next week and inside the portal. All right. I don't see any comments yet, so I would imagine everything is fine. And you are set to undertake the week 2 of the Build a Momentum month. Map your existing journey. Have fun doing it. Use the portal as much as you want. Enjoy navigating inside the Academy portal to find the case studies that I have prepared, so you can, if you want, get inspiration from those. And I will be here in the portal to support you until we meet next week. Thanks, Sarah, for the message. Take care. We'll see you very soon. Have a great meeting, Sarah. Take care. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to the replay viewers. I'll see you very soon.